Well, there you are. Welcome back. It's time for us to get into the newspapers. And look at her, she's here. Mama Beezy, yo.
Hello. Hello.
How are you? How was your weekend?
How was the weekend? It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay.
You did experience the shaking of your land size?
I live in Kutunzi.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not on the fault line.
No.
Right.
Well.
We're not close. Yeah.
Many
But you
people...
felt it?
I didn't.
Did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
In fact, I was actually driving at the time.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
You were driving
Saturday
at the
night, yeah.
I'm talking it happened at dawn.
What time did it?
Or midnight, thereabout.
Yeah?
Quite late, yeah.
Yeah, he was still on the road. Which one is your business?
Now, I wanted to know, so if you're on the... Because the car now, they shake already. I want to... And what were you exactly? So that we'll know whether you were really experienced.
Really?
I doubt whether you experienced.
Who tell you say my car dey shake?
No, I mean...
Your car dey shake.
No, but you go feel safe, but you're on the road. So
but listen, guys, I mean, I think there are some really critical questions because we've had quite a number of these tremors recently.
Yeah.
And are we like getting ready for something bigger? Or we're just saying that, oh, this is...
Well, I think there are things we can look at to tell us whether we are getting ready for something bigger or not. You remember the last time we had these tremors, we went and did a story at the seismological surveillance center, not far from Gimpa. And one of the big problems they told us about was a lack of funding. They present a budget every year. In fact, they don't even want much. What they want is to be able to keep the existing seismographs working, you know, and they send a budget to government for it and you don't get the money. So clearly, somebody who is making decisions about how to spend our money is looking at that item and thinking,
this one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, I don't see evidence that we are doing anything about this. I did observe. Yeah, I was just going to say, I observed in this year's budget that something was allocated to them. Okay. But we all know the difference between allocating and allocating.
And dispersing.
Yeah. Dispersing, thank you.
Maybe this should also prompt us, you know, to pay attention to this and ask some very critical questions.
Yes, definitely. And the questions also would need to border on how the complementary agencies all come together to make sure that there is some kind of an emergency plan. Do we have it? I don't think that we do. Because if you, and yesterday I was just doing a bit of reading and further when you go deep down, you get to find that in most countries in Asia, especially and along those islands in the Pacific especially, we tend to experience these tremors often. It's become a part of their generations. They have emergency plans.
They've got the alerts as well. Yeah,
it looks like everybody is aware we're living in this area. It can happen at any time. There's tsunamis that tend to happen. And tsunami, I mean, literally, is just like an earthquake that happened in the sea and affects the land, I mean, basically. And and they seem to have a certain systematic way by which they live their life. The structure of the building needs to be well regulated under a certain...
But even that, Roland, you see the casualties that they record. So I'm thinking we haven't prepared at all.
So you can imagine without
should the
any
worst
emergency
happen,
planning, means that
how are we going to deal with it?
You know, perhaps the most likely location for an earthquake in Ghana is McAfee Hill. If you look at the fault line and how it runs, it's kind of like they're all converging there. So it is perhaps the most likely place for an earthquake to happen. And this is the place where building regulations are thrown farthest into the gutter. You know, because people are building on ridges, on edges of already shaky and porous land, you know, clayey soil that doesn't really bind, that even if you dig a foundation into it, what have you really done? That's where people are building. And we are allowing it. You see, this is for me the big concern. The fact that our regulatory bodies, somebody there will just take some coins and allow you to do what really is endangering your life, the life of your children, and more importantly, your neighbors who perhaps have actually done the right thing. You know, somebody who has built somewhere else and probably has got all the right, you know, built to the right regulations, your house will come and collapse on him and kill him. because somebody took some coins. And for me, that is the biggest concern. The fact that our regulatory bodies, nobody, they kind of get away with murder. And if somebody like Anas goes to do an expose to expose the people who are putting us at risk, somebody will then come along and say, the cat likes fish. So if you taunt it with fish, you haven't done anything.
On that note, I have some 10 questions to ask you.
Ooh.
But we'll do the newspapers, yeah?
10 pa.
Yeah, no, 10.
To ask you, me Kojo.
No.
Hey.
Why are you running away?
I will run.
Let's check out what's in the newspapers today. I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper on the front page. Council of States to meet President over import duties and taxes. Dr. Awal adjudged most business-oriented African minister. Recurring earth tremors in Accra. We've been talking about it. Prepare emergency plan. Who says that? Well, President task National Security and Interior Ministry. The President is asking the National Security and Interior Ministry to prepare emergency plan. Details of that in the paper today. Back page, KNUST to organize Chancellor's Cup of Honor. To honor Otumfuo Seitu II. Confederation's Cup dream still on for Kotoko with emphatic Nkana win. Okay, it was 3-0, huh? Yeah. Center spread of the paper, Tema Akosombo Railway Project land, on the Tema Akosombo Railway Project, land administration, management, matters arising, all of that in the center spread. Also Plan International to partner more corporate organization. And Game ADR Institute holds 20th graduation. Congratulations to Mr. Austin Game. All right, that's it for the graphic.
All right, I'll do the Times and the Daily Guide really quickly. Catholic bishops slam vigilantes. The Ghanaian Times are still calling them vigilantes. They are militias. And call on public to promote peace and security. Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining steps aside. What's the legal meaning of step aside? What does it mean? No, I mean legally, in terms of employment.
I don't know.
In terms of employment, like, does it mean you are going on suspension? Does it mean
you take salary?
Yeah, what does it mean? What's the legal meaning? When someone says, I'm stepping aside.
I beg, let's call the lawyers.
Are you resigning, or are you just
You're
going
recusing
home?
yourself.
From what? So is it that he simply...
From the position, so that if there are investigations, you're not there, so you're either not
in a position
suspected to be interfering.
That's the legal meaning. So,
I don't know if that's a legal meaning.
Okay. All right. So is he on salary still?
Good question.
Is he still being paid? When you recuse yourself, do you continue to take a salary?
Good question.
Or do you just go home so that if they need anything, they can call you and you can still work from home? Or do you? What does it mean to step aside legally?
Who shall we call? Who shall we call?
Well, we've had precedent before. I remember there was Richard Anthony who recused himself. There were investigations at the time by.
And what did it mean in his case?
He was reinstated.
Yeah. So during the time he recused himself.
Then Pius Ajide, did he recuse himself?
I don't know.
So we have some sort of precedent.
Yes. So what happened during those? Stepping aside.
We have to ask the...
Can I step aside and try and call
Sure. Let me finish this. Please do that while I do this. All right. Government poised to set up integrated aluminum industry. That's the president speaking. Dr. Awal adjudged most business-oriented African minister. Minister for Business. What's his portfolio again? Business Development.
The Minister of State.
For business development is the most business oriented. Okay. And our Minister for Roads is the most roads oriented minister. Okay. And on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, Kotoko thrash Nkana FC to revive Confed Cup campaign. What a game, what a game. GNPC inaugurates 40 boreholes in 3 regions. Let's put that to one side for a moment. NDC leaked tape. Mahama defends Ufusuampofo. Justifies attacks on Peace Council chairman. That's how the Daily Guide reports what happened in church on Sunday. Very interesting. In fact, I think we ought to play back some of that to you so that you can decide for yourself what the former president is actually saying in that delivery that he made. Interesting stuff. Nana pushes for vibrant aluminum industry, and freak accident in Kumasi. And you've got to see the pictures of this thing. The full story is on page 6, but there's one car on top of another. Yeah, how that happened is anyone's guess. Details on page 6. Bisu steps aside over Anas's Galamsey video, and earth tremor in Accra. On the back page, Kotokote and Kana apart. Multimedia grabs top sports host, and that's Obinkweku Maestro. And rugby team gets cash for Africa Silver Cup triumph. Also on the back page, government gives Coach Eshan befitting funeral.
Okay, so let's look at the Daily Dispatch newspaper. And this is the Dispatch, has on the front page the reshuffle and analysis. It's all there. Catherine Apeku and Ghana's total expenditure of some $4 million on Afrima. The story is on page 11 of the paper. It was an interesting event at the time. It was convened some few months ago. We also have privatization of basic schools, Anogo area. And this is looks like an article, an opinion by, or a story that is sourced to a former acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Charles Chega. Will make interesting reading. Yep. On the back page, we have more analysis on the reshuffle that happened. Let's look at the Daily Statesman newspaper. It has on the front page, CID to quiz of Oswampofo, NDC chair to answer for pro-violence leak tape. We also have up there some questions that were asked by Gabi Asari Ochredako. Says, Gabi, what are Anas's new exposés worth? And then we have Sharubutu Baumia pray for peace in Ghana. You have a picture there of Dr. Baumia with the chief imam, Sheikh Nuhu Sharubutu. Give us a vibrant industry. President swears in new Aluminium Development Corporation Board. And those are the stories that we have currently.
Shall I do a couple more?
Yeah. No.
Okay, Mama B is checking on that little legal detail about stepping aside for us. Now, the Informer has these headlines, including this banner headline, pursuing ego-driven 6th March celebration in Tamale. Akufo-Addo starves and maltreats soldiers. Well, the Informer has details of that. Rather interesting headline. And there are some pictures of food, some food in this particular story. Also, Informer vindicated as NPP kingpins caught red-handed in Galamsey fraud. For embarking on Galamsey fraud, Akufo-Addo fires aid. I don't know how accurate that is because Charles Bisu wrote a letter saying himself that he was stepping aside. I don't think I've seen anything from the presidency firing him. For insulting Nima residents, Muslim chiefs warn minister. Apologize or face our wrath. On the back page, that story about Akufo-Addo apparently starving and maltreating soldiers is there. You can read what the Informer is trying to tell you. The Ghanaian Observer has these. Mahama endorses NDC's evil tape. Akufo-Addo swears in Giadec board. NCCE slams of Oswampofo over evil tape. CVM petition Bank of Ghana over activities of multi-credit savings and loans, and Yasantua Rural Bank. Look, we have to have a conversation about Bank of Ghana. We have to have a serious conversation about them. If what the information minister told me at the State of the Nation address is true, that it is some miscommunication from them that led to the cedi's depreciation, recent depreciation, we need to have a word. We need to really talk about what we can do to make their work more effective. Because if a little thing like a miscommunication can cause our cedi to plummet and affect all of us in this way, then there needs to be some tightening of efficiency. We'll talk about that. Government fights CNN over documentary. And this is about the one that suggests that there's some slavery going, child slavery on the Volta Lake. It's an interesting conversation.
I saw somebody said, oh, they are showing it again, CNN Pa. Then I went to CNN to check out what they were showing, and I saw it.
Well, I'm told the documentary was compiled or first premiered a couple of years
So
ago.
what's the objection exactly? What's the objection?
I suspect that government is indicating this is not slavery. I suspect. I have to read the story. You know, people have thrown out some definitions of slavery. You have to be in captivity or unable to leave. You have to be working in inhumane conditions, and there's another one. And I think if we are going by that definition, then everything we saw in CNN is correct.
I thought it was, okay. Oh, if we're going by the slavery definition.
Yes. I don't know if that is the authoritative definition. I haven't looked it up myself. But the one that I saw, which somebody was using to argue against CNN, actually, if you're going by that, then CNN is right. Because the children can't leave. They've been handed over to these work masters or whatever.
Because they
to pay off debts and so forth. So they can't leave. Okay? The second thing is that it should be against your will. Okay? And of course, these children would rather be in school or playing in a field somewhere. So it is definitely against their will. And finally, it should be inhumane work and so forth. Well, yes, they are dunking their heads under salty water for ages to bring up fish and all manner of things. So yes, it is very inhumane for a child to be doing that kind of work.
But what should we be angry at? Is it how CNN is portraying something that is happening, or we should be angry that it is happening so that we end it?
It's a good question you've asked.
You know?
It's a good question you've asked, but it appears that government, according to the Ghanaian Observer, disagrees with CNN. So that means those poor children,
I think we should be looking at, because
this government is not planning to save them from slavery.
At the end of the day, it's poverty. I mean, because most of these people have lots of children they can't take care of, so they would allow some of them to go and work. They take some few CDs from these people and then give their children for them to go and settle the debts in terms of go and work. So if we would cure the thing that is making parents willingly give their children to these people so that they can go and work, you know, then it will be better than, you know, us eradicating the issue will be better than fighting some international media that is doing, and there's a Ghanaian narrating, you know, the thing to them.
But perhaps, you see, what government's concern is that, okay, there is a problem, we want to solve it, but the problem is not slavery. Don't tell the world that we are still enslaving people in Ghana. I mean, it's a horrible blight, let's be clear, a horrible blight on our reputation. So perhaps that's the point, that maybe government does want to deal with it, but are saying, look, stop calling it slavery.
Do you know how many times we've told that story, except that we don't call it slavery, we call it child labor. And there's been other NGOs who've done rescue, you know, missions there. We've told our correspondents, I've told the story like a million times, you know. Why hasn't anybody stopped it from happening?
And you see, we've done all these stories here on the JoyNews channel. Government never came to discuss it with us.
Well, we didn't call it slavery.
Because we didn't call it slavery. CNN calls it slavery, government is responding. So maybe that's what it needs. You sometimes need to call things by their worst name to get people to react to it.
If this would get them to solve the problem.
So we call vigilantes militias, and all of a sudden we're hearing a discourse about it, a dialogue about it. The president himself has stepped in to say, you know, deal with it.
Because we called it militia.
Well, we didn't. Professor Mensah did, and we took it up.
No, I'm talking.
But that's the point, you know. Or perhaps if we start calling corruption stealing, people will then get it.
Well, which is what it is, really.
That's what it is. You know, if we start calling things by their worst name, perhaps we can activate action quicker.
Now, the thing is, it's not the first time across the world, especially in the developing world, that we've had children who have been involved in menial jobs or extreme level of labor just to eke some living either for their parents or other dependents over their family. There had been extreme criticism, especially for big corporations like Adidas, Puma, and some of those.
Even when the children are modeling.
Yes, and because they go to Thailand, Vietnam, and some of those East Asian countries and use those children under those sort of conditions, extreme poverty, and they use them extremely to make money off them. And if you look at the end product and how much is sold, there's no correlation between what the output or what the revenues are, or the profits that they tend to generate, and what happens. It's because they are situated somewhere, they give somebody a contract to undertake something based on a certain specification. When we come to our contest, it's really steeped in a certain socio-cultural context. I think that is what we need to cure. We need to cure the socio-cultural mindset and within the context in which we use these children. When we are in a position to do that, then we'll have a better conversation about what it is. It's not the first time. I've worked extremely in trying to work with NGOs, especially in child labor for cocoa. And I remember in the Kufuor administration, they had U.S. senators, especially we had Harkin Engel, and there was a protocol, and it was led by the U.S. Senate, and they came in. There was a protocol that they signed with many countries. Ghana was a signatory, and they tried to rate the countries, give them money to work with various NGOs to do that. But if we don't cure the socio-cultural aspect, I don't see how that it could change. We need also to empower people by giving them the right sort of education, also giving them right sort of employment, and if people have not been given the right education, what sort of skill do we give them so that people don't tend to use children to undertake menial jobs?
So you know, when you mentioned the NGO, I wanted to just use this as an example. Heights,
you talked about Child Rights International.
You talked about cocoa. So I used to work with IBIS. IBIS is now merged with Oxfam, and you know, IBIS is Danish. So you know, IBIS was getting a lot of funding. In fact, all of its funding really from taxes that the people paid. And what they did, so because we take a lot of cocoa there, they use it for their chocolates and stuff. What they did directly to impact was to put funding into IBIS and set up projects on the ground. So if you go to some cocoa growing areas, they had model schools. And they wanted to see the money impact directly in the lives of these children of farming parents. You get it? Because usually if you gave it to government, you wouldn't know if it was going to serve the purpose or not. And the whole idea, these module schools, is not for us to see these international people run it by themselves, but it's for us to be learning. You know, so
and own it.
These are homegrown issues. We can't expect other people to always be solving it for us. For how long can IBIS or Oxfam be running all these projects on not our taxel? These are other people who are paying taxes and they're bringing it down.
In the case of what's happening on the Volta River, there's no international organization benefiting from what they're doing to those children. And so we can't have hope of a model school or any other intervention of that nature. However, I can give some extra information. First of all, government is not fighting CNN because they are calling it slavery.
No. Oh, okay.
Kojo Nkrumah was speaking, and he said that the documentary doesn't show what government is doing to
so it's one-sided.
Yes, that's the complaint of government. So they're actually saying that they are doing something. Okay, he had a telephone conversation and wrote a letter to CNN and said that while government of Ghana acknowledges the practice, it has worked in the last decade to curb it, leading to significant success. He said government of Ghana and CNN have agreed to collaborate on a sequel highlighting government's efforts to eradicate cases of child labor on the lake. CNN, through its producer and executive editor Leif Corlim, said the state had been given an opportunity in the documentary to update on its efforts to resolve the challenge, but was willing to offer a more comprehensive platform to outline the resolution of the practice. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. When I first read it, I was going to lift my head up and say, you know what? If CNN really came here and told a story without checking what government is doing about it, then that is shockingly below their standards. And then I read that they gave government an opportunity. So you see us, we're given an opportunity, we didn't use it well. Now the thing is out and we are complaining that we weren't given an opportunity.
I'm suspecting that the opportunity would not have necessarily gone to the information ministry. But it would have gone to the, which is really what I would do. I mean, it would go to the office directly, you know, that's supposed to. So they're not going to write to government and say, we're coming to Ghana to do the story and we're asking for a reaction.
Of course not.
But I just wanted to say that, see, if we really had data, you know, if you say you're doing something about it and there's data,
There is
if we
data.
say from 2000, this was what it was. 2005, 2010, 2018, 2019, then, you know, somebody can track it and say, oh, yes, indeed, they have this issue, but this is what they've been doing.
So I guess that's the
are.
point. You see, government should have been able, in that opportunity given them, whomever they spoke to, should have been able to say, well, this is how the problem was 10 years ago, this is how it was 5 years ago, this is how it was now. So that's the progress we've made. These are the things we've done to achieve that progress. And you see, it shouldn't be the information ministry. Okay, so let's say, for example, they went to the Gender, Children and Social Protection Ministry, which has some bearing on the issue. They should be able to get more accurate information from there than from the information ministry. After all, where would the information ministry get information from? Or if they went, say, to the local government, they should be able to get more accurate information from there.
I hope that the kind of response that we want to give would come with data. And it won't just be words.
I should hope that...
I guess that's the only way people will be convinced that indeed they're doing something about it.
I should hope that if CNN or any other media house, including ours, is doing a story and we ask the relevant office to respond, I should hope that they can. And that they won't either waste the opportunity, not take advantage of it, and then later come and say that they were not given the opportunity. That, I mean, look, and by the way, it's not just this government. We've been seeing this under President Mahama.
We could have added those data, those statistics to the story, for instance.
We've been seeing this sort of failure to properly represent, you know, under President Mahama, under President Tamils, all the way back Kufo. When international media are doing a story, they will be thorough. They will go to the place where the information should be. And if they go and it's not there,
they don't come to Ghana to waste their time. But I think for many of the times, the international media and any crew, for that matter, that is coming to Ghana first gets an accreditation from the Ministry of Information. That's what they do. I think what needs to be done is a better coordination between why they come to get those accreditation for the period with which they are working in Ghana, and then relatedly, the Ministry of Information needs to take some responsibility on itself to say the reason why they are coming, whoever they came to contact, we also need to make sure that they get the right people to talk to. Because I can tell you the government of Ghana from the 90s up to the periods of the early 2000s right up to now seem to have been investing some money in trying to looking at some remediation efforts in improving child labor. How many and how much we spend is a question I guess we all need to ask. Where they spend it, whether it's judiciously spent based on the allocations for social intervention, is also another question we need to ask. If you go elsewhere, because they tend to own or perhaps acknowledge that indeed they have those problems in their society, they tend to do the right sort of communication to the public, but also to their citizens and even the international community. And if indeed we know we're spending an amount of money and we were doing this sort of interventions, then we should be communicating to people. The international community then would then come in, whether it's CNN or any other company, media agency that comes, will know that, oh, already there's this sort of communication that is ongoing about an intervention by the government of Ghana. Then they will know that something is already being done. They don't know where to go. We don't communicate well enough for many of the things that we tend to do. And that's a problem that we have.
When you don't do it locally.
Yeah. Because even here you want information from the government official,
the fundamentals are weak, you know.
So why is it that maybe Joy or maybe TV3
remember
or
to help me to give you the updates because
what
I set myself aside.
What Roland is saying is kind of just highlighting the fact that there is a problem. You know, if the information ministry has to take over and say speak to this person, speak to that person, it indicates that if you speak to a certain person, you get what government doesn't want you to get. That's what it means.
No, not
it means
over.
that
Also
it means that
in a way.
if CNN themselves walk up to a certain office and ask for information, they are likely to either be given information that is not what government wants to communicate, or perhaps even wrong information.
But
that's what it means.
If you're an international media house and you came to Ghana specifically, you went to this area to do the story. The official, would be the local assembly, for instance.
Thank you.
You won't come to national because you're looking for information. It exists right there.
Exactly. And in any case, if national was to answer you, where would national get the information from?
From look. I mean, I won't come to national.
Often the international media, when they come, they barely want to speak to government agencies, so which is good because they want to get the facts right, get the issues right, but also they tend to arrange with fixers. And I'm saying that those fixers make sure that they get accreditation from the ministry.
Yeah, but with that said, though,
the ministry should take interest in
after
that.
watching what I watched, I think it looked staged, even though I know the issue persists, because you'd see that the person who is leading this is a local NGO getting funding from elsewhere. And I am always suspicious about such things. Because this guy is also talking about, at least the bits that I watched. I didn't watch the entire thing, I must confess. The bit I watched is also talking about what the monies that they had given him was going into. You know, so more or less you also want to make a good case for what you're doing so you get more funding.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's false.
It's not like a news story. You get what I mean?
Right.
This is like a feature, and there are actors in it.
Actors.
You know. Well, that's how I decide to put them.
Right.
No.
So these children that you saw.
No, not the children.
Are not actually,
I'm not
like
right,
Hollywood.
I'm talking about those who are telling the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a quick question before we go. You know, the NDC is criticizing religious leaders for being one-sided in their commentary and condemnation. Peace Council chair, and all the other groups. Do they have a point?
Depends.
Are these people?
You see, I think it's just what we've done.
You mean the
so
religious
even with the religious leaders, we've divided them. There are MPP and there are NDC people. I mean, it's just what we've done with everything else. So if this person is speaking, then you want to look at him from that perspective.
The truth is that all these militiamen come from the church. Who are the people who occupy the church or the congregation?
Pardon?
I thought they come from the society.
Yes, and I'm coming there. And then those who occupy...
surely some also come from the mosque.
No. Yes, I'm talking... but you said religion.
The shrine.
You said religion.
I said religious leaders.
Yeah, so religious leaders will include the voodoo head.
Yes, all of them.
And so whoever occupies there is a replica of what the society is. And definitely the first port of call for any intervention or anybody to criticize should be coming from the religious leaders, because if you look at the way we revere religion and
are they one-sided
and the symptomatic fear,
so you see sometimes
or not?
Kojo, I just remember something
they're biased.
that my pastor was sharing.
I think
sometimes
they are.
I mean, it's just about sometimes when they carry themselves to these churches, they don't tell them the truth because of their offerings that they give. You know, when the politician comes, they are coming to give something big, so they fail to tell them the truth.
All right.
I
think we have to have a bigger conversation
we have
about
to. We definitely have to. Wait, hang on. I recused myself.
You stepped aside.
Yes, I went to speak to lawyer Papa. Okay, so so the thing is, this is the little that I have learned on the issue of stepping aside, and we're talking about Charles Bissue, yeah? So the question the lawyer raised was, he felt like he will not necessarily be earning like salary, but he will probably be getting some allowances because originally he's a staffer. So the clarification should be, is he going to be paid as a staffer? And would they continue to pay him the allowances from the position that he occupied as secretary to the Galamsey, whatever it is, interministerial, whatever.
So this lawyer has only given us more questions.
Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, so this is a brilliant question that you asked, which will lead us on to, because we've had this thing happening several times and we don't ask the critical question. Would he still be paid? What would he be doing? What does stepping aside mean? But in terms of the question of what illegally means, something Larry Ayenini says is just English.
Well,
yeah.
All right then. So let's
a quick two good mornings. First good morning to Mr. Frank Kwache of Daffin Finance, and the second good morning is to Evelyn Insia Asari. Good morning to y'all.
Is the Evelyn one that you want?
Women's football.
Okay. Women's football. But you mentioned Daffin, and then of Didn't come for the lady.
Evelyn knows. Evelyn is watching. Hello to your
discriminatory.
husband as well.
We're in Ghana month. We have to recognize all sexes.
And
in
International Women's Day is coming up. Watch out.
All right then. So time for sports.
Yeah,
we're back with more. But Benedict has all the headlines from around the world of sports, including that 3-0 headline, that 3-0 scoreline, which was pretty fantastic actually. Kotoko really representing. Who? Oh, Asare Bediako is the one doing the sports, right?
Yes,
not
yes,
Benedict.
yes.
Oh, okay.
not
all right.
Benedict.
Well, he's on his way. Stay tuned.